Bulavinaka, greetings to you all, our speakers from the Pacific region, the Global Alliance for Climate Smart Agriculture team, Dr. Lily and team from the Commonwealth Scientific and Industrial Research Organization, or CSIRO, welcome. And to all our participants tuning in from abroad, we thank you for your time and participation in this Pacific Climate Smart Agriculture Alliance dialogue, which aims to mobilize action on policies, practices, and financing for climate smart agriculture with the following objectives: to establish presence and links of GACSA in the Pacific. Sorry, is everyone able to hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Objective 2, to identify climate change impacts on the Pacific agricultural system and key climate smart agriculture practices to support food security and resilient communities. And objective 3 is to identify key solutions to achieve resilient and sustainable food systems in the Pacific in the face of climate change. And for those who aren't in the Pacific region, we are expecting a cyclone this afternoon or the latest tomorrow, Cyclone Yasa that's on its way to Fiji.
Yeah, thanks. It's working. Okay.
Is everyone able to see the screen? Sorry.
Thanks.
Looks like you have the screen not being shared right now.
The screen is not being shared. Apologies. Okay, just a few house rules. The event is being recorded. So by participating, you are showing your willingness to be recorded. We invite the participants to use the Q&A function to put any questions forward, and my co-host Matilda will be in direct contact with you. And so you are all muted, and we will activate your microphone if you are putting a question. We have measures in place to help maintain the integrity of the call. Should there be a disturbance, please do bear with us, and we will restore order shortly. I think Matilda is able. Okay. This online consultation will discuss, share lessons from the Pacific, and set a way forward in strengthening partnership on climate smart agriculture in the Pacific region. The webinar is held in 2 parts. Introducing the Global Alliance we are introducing the Global Alliance for Climate Smart Agriculture and the Pacific Climate Smart Agriculture Alliance. And the second part will be sharing of experiences from member countries. Now, without further ado, I would like to introduce Dr. Hans Hoogeveen.
Tino,
Yes.
I think you and Matilda are sitting next to each other. Eh?
Yes.
Because we're hearing some echoes coming from the background, and I think because your laptops are close to each other, if I don't know how we resolve that, whether maybe you
Okay.
you mute one of the laptops, or
what are you sharing? Is that okay?
Okay,
A
good.
lot better, yes.
Yeah. I need to get out.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
So without further ado, I would like to introduce Dr. Hans Hoogeveen, who's serving as the ambassador or permanent secretary of the Netherlands to the UN Organizations for Food and Agriculture. Before that, he was the Director General for the Agriculture and Nature Management at the Netherlands Ministry of Economic Affairs for 9 years, responsible for national, European, and international policies related to sustainable agriculture, agribusiness, natural resources, and nature management. As such, Dr. Hoogeveen was the most senior civil servant to lead the agriculture, agribusiness, food safety, food security, veterinary and plant health, international affairs, including the European Common Agriculture Policy and the Common Fisheries Policy, international food security, the FAO and other UN affairs, trade liberalization, WTO, market access, and nature biodiversity management agendas. We have a short presentation from him this morning. Thank you.
Tino and Matilda, I think just check the audio settings. It's on mute. The clip is on mute.
Go back.
Yeah, we can hear you, but we can't hear the video.
Can we? Is it the video?
Yes, it's a video.
Yeah, maybe check the sound settings.
No.
IT. Someone called the IT.
Okay, so since we're having some technical difficulties, we will move on with our so now I would like to introduce Mr. Lufingo Muamakamba, who is the GACSA Regional Climate Smart Agriculture Alliance leader, responsible for promoting cross-learning and experience sharing among the CSA alliances, networks, platforms, and processes. Prior to joining GACSA, Lufingo served as the Director for Corporate Affairs and Partnerships Manager at the Food, Agriculture and Natural Resources Policy Analysis Network. Lufingo, as a global alliance on climate smart agriculture, what does GACSA have in store for us in the Pacific?
Good morning, colleagues. And it's an honor and privilege to be part of this process. I'd like to thank you, Gibson and Tino, for allowing us as GACSA to be part of this, and for your team as well in creating this space. I am Lufingo, the Regional CSA Alliance leader at the Global Alliance for Climate Smart Agriculture. Is it possible for you to put up the PowerPoint, Matilda?
I think, will it be possible for you to share your screen, because she's having some technical difficulties. We can't see it.
Okay. Just give me a minute. I'll try to share my screen here. Okay. Are you able to see my screen now? Tina, are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Tina?
Yes, Lufingo, I can see your screen.
Okay, I shall proceed. Great. No, thank you very much for the invitation and for allowing us to be part of this process. Like I had mentioned, that I am with the Global Alliance for Climate Smart Agriculture, and it's a great honor for us to be part of this process. Thank you for giving us this space. Just a brief on GACSA and who we are. So the Global Alliance for Climate Smart Agriculture is an inclusive, voluntary, and action-oriented multi-stakeholder platform on CSA with the vision to improve food security, nutrition, and resilience in the face of the changing climate. And this is done through tapping into the wealth and diversity of resources, knowledge, information, and also the expertise that come from the broad spectrum of the GACSA membership and at all levels. GACSA was launched by the United Nations Secretary General in New York, and this was in 2014 during the Climate Summit. So our vision as GACSA is really working together to ensure that we have agriculture is sustainably feed and nourish humanity and secure livelihoods in the face of this of the changing climate. There are three main pillars that hold GACSA together, and this is the provision of a multi-stakeholder inclusive platform to foster dialogue and learning, leveraging on multi-institutional action to generate problem-solving knowledge and partnerships to advance the uptake of CSA at scale. And lastly, to provide easy access to integrated and updated information and knowledge on CSA through a variety of service-oriented and purpose-built knowledge management systems. Our membership is quite wide. Currently, we're sitting close to over 500 members, and these are registered entities across different sectors. And really, GACSA is voluntary coalition built on a very participatory approach and open to different stakeholder groupings. Participation in the Alliance provide members with access to information, experiences, contacts, and support, and give all members access to such services, bearing in mind different, the main targets are farmers and also other vulnerable groups. The approach that we use, taking into account the synergies and trade-offs relating to different options with regards to agriculture, climate change, and food security, as an alliance, the alliance takes into account different international processes and initiatives that are integral to fulfilling the UN global ambitions and agenda on sustainable development and climate action. That being said, the key elements that come into play would be how best can we come about and create a clearinghouse mechanism, bringing different stakeholders together and also through a thematic focus action groups. And within this, I'll get into details in that, but the action groups really are the programming hub of GACSA. How best can we come with a matchmaking facility, not just on resources, but also linking different partners together for different collaborative initiatives. These are really the participatory approaches. The structure is of GACSA really hovers around the GACSA facilitation unit that sits in Rome at the FAO headquarters, but we have the action groups, which is the programming hub. We've got the regional alliances. There's a strategic committee that governs and looks at the programming and also some fiduciary elements. The bureau, which is really the GACSA champions that get to sell and promote the activities that GACSA undertakes. As I mentioned, we've got three key action groups: knowledge, investments, and the enabling environment. The knowledge group really looks at creating and disseminating knowledge. Investments, we are targeting what are the key investments that we can push towards CSA, and the enabling environment, looking at policy and how best we can advocate the upscale and promotion of CSA initiatives. The exciting thing about GACSA, since the birth of GACSA, we've noticed or seen a number of regional and national CSA alliances, platforms, and processes that have mushroomed. This is just to give you a pictorial view of some of the alliances globally that have come about. Apart from the regional alliances, we also dig into particularly in Africa, we have sub-regional alliances, and these also dig further into country processes and platforms. The exciting thing about this network of CSA alliances, it gives us a good scope in building coherence from the bottom up to the global platform, and coming up with a strong CSA position. Currently, we're sitting at 7 regional CSA alliances, and we are now zeroing in the Pacific with the Pacific community hosting the Pacific CSA Alliance. When we look at the engagement platform, GACSA's engagement platform, how best can we bring about from country processes to the regional and build these to the global platform? There are a couple of elements that we can look at, establishing pertinent issues from the regional alliances and members, and conducting validation and research of some of these emerging issues, identifying and selecting key stakeholders to collate these issues. These build key issues that build up to further engagement. And through this, we can build up into policy advisory notes, synthesize key issues from the regions for global dialogue, networking, and building membership drive, agenda setting and alignment, and conducting advocacy engagements. And once we have the regional processes done, we zero in on the global level, bringing the different regions with their key emerging issues to synthesize these regional issues by convening multi-stakeholder or sectoral policy dialogues. Again, setting agendas and aligning, building coherence through various advocacy engagements, networking, and also membership drive. There are a couple of ways that as members of GACSA, we benefit, and really looking at how best can we share and build knowledge, learning from one another, north, south, south learnings and experience sharing, finding solutions, not just from the region, but also among the different regions. Bringing up valued different perspectives from different regions, and also within national processes, encouraging such discourse to be dialogued and debated. And lastly, building partnerships to create synergies. The exciting thing about this, again, is how we build a community of CSA practice. And as we zero in on the Pacific region, the key elements that we should look into and focus. The first one is on membership growth. By engaging the alliance members and partners, facilitating such growth of the alliance and its initiatives, creating that community. We have regional engagements, building further the cooperation among CSA alliances through a dedicated committee of practice to foster knowledge exchange and experience sharing, not just within the region, but also their key experiences and lessons that generate or are coming out from the region that we could share with other regions and globally. There is alliance alignment and training. This is really looking at training and capacity building, facilitating cross-learning and experience sharing to aggregate and disseminate clear and useful knowledge for action. Joint activities, communication activities, in collating and disseminating information and knowledge, and developing communication products to further promote key success stories and learnings. And lastly, looking at what key resource mobilization efforts are out there as we try to identify investments towards CSA. In a nutshell, that is really our focus in GACSA, and also looking at the region. I encourage and welcome you to follow some of the updates that are on our virtual platforms, especially now with the challenges that we are going through in COVID. I think this gives us a good opportunity for us to further connect and see different opportunities. I thank you. Over to you, Tina.
Thank you, Lufingo. We look forward to this collaboration and sharing experiences from the Pacific with other regions. Now moving on to our next speaker. I think for most of you, he needs no introduction. It's Mr. Gibson Suzumu. He is our program leader for the Sustainable Agriculture Pillar for the Land Resources Division at SPC. Gibson, can you share with us from a regional perspective, what is and has been the CSA or climate smart agriculture experiences and challenges?
Yo, thank you, Tino. And Lufingo for the excellent overview of the role of GACSA. I think my presentation will really focus around the Pacific perspective, especially looking at the experiences and the role of SPC in promoting climate smart agriculture approaches in the region and to address some of the key vulnerability issues confronting the farming systems in the Pacific region. So perhaps I can just go right through my presentation and who's sharing it. Is Matilda sharing that presentation?
I think she's
Or I
unable
share it?
to.
Ah, there you go.
Oh, there it is. Thank you.
Excellent. So again, before I touch on the outline, I just want to join my colleague Tino and also Lufingo to thank everyone for joining us today. Again, as Lufingo highlighted already, I think the purpose of GACSA and in line with today's session is really to share experiences amongst ourselves and also with the global community. So without further ado, again, my presentation will focus on the first overview of the Pacific region, especially from the SPC point of view or context. Then I'll provide a little bit overview of SPC to benefit those outside of the region. And then I'll focus on the land resource division programs that are linked to promoting climate smart agriculture. And then lastly, I'll touch on some of the climate smart agriculture link. Next, click again, Matilda. Again, set. Oh, back. Yeah, set. So this map just to paint the overview of the Pacific region. As you can see, there are quite a number of islands, small, scattered over a vast body. in total, we have about 22 Pacific Island countries and territories. And we often refer to the region in 3 sub-regions. As you can see, the red circle or line, that's the Micronesia region. These are the most small islands in the Pacific Ocean. And then we have the Melanesia region. These are the bigger islands. And then the Polynesia region. So next. Oh, back, please. Back. Yeah. So this table is just to show the number of countries in the Pacific that SPC2 provides services. So we have in total of 14 countries or independent countries and about 8 territories of French territories, New Zealand, UK, and the US territories. These are the key islands that SPC do provide services to. And also we have other 4 SPC member countries that we call the metropolitan members. They're not really in the France, of course, not in, and US not in the region, but they are part of SPC and they are our funding bodies. They do provide much of the funding that allows SPC to provide services on an annual basis. Next. So I think I should highlight the vision and the mission of SPC, which also support promoting resilient communities in the region. Historically, SPC was established to post-World War II just to really maintain stability and peace in the region. But as it evolves, the member countries started adding more functions to the organization. So to date, we provide services across all sectors, from social to economic empowerment for the region. And to do this, we really focus on providing scientific and technical support to our member countries to achieve their development aspirations. Next. So in order to deliver these programs and services in a more effective and efficient way, SPC is organized into about 9 divisions, although this year we have merged 2 of the programs into 1 division. So now we have about 8 divisions. As you can see the table, we cover almost all sectors from social development to all the primary or economic sectors. Next. Now, I'll go on and focus on the land resource division. Again, our mandate is really to promote agricultural development in the region by contributing to the key vision of SPC-wide. Next. Now, in terms of climate smart agriculture approaches, I should mention that we have just published a framework which we have been using to first assess the vulnerability of communities in a very holistic way, and from there working with the communities to define what are the priority adaptation approaches. So if you can see the diagram on the right of the screen, this is the approach we are using currently to promote climate smart agriculture approaches in the region. It's a 4-step process First, we look at in a participatory way, working with the communities to assess what are the key exposure in relation to climatic and as well as non-climatic factors. And from there, we then work with the communities again in a participatory way to assess the actual impacts of climate change on their, on not only on their farming systems, but as well as on their livelihoods and food security needs. The next step is to work with the communities in the participatory way to work. So look at what adaptation strategies that can be implemented to strengthen the resilience of these communities. And we use a range of tools in the whole process to really look at what are the key exposures, impacts, and as well as adaptation measures within the power of the communities, and also what other support services can be provided from external sources. Now, this framework or this approach has been tested and piloted over years, and finally this year we were able to uh, to finalize it and publish it for the countries to start using. Now, from the experience of these assessments, some of the key, Matilda, if you can go back to that slide, some of the key issues coming out from these assessments are really point to the vulnerability of the farming systems due to narrow genetic resources, soil fertility issues, pest and disease, animal. One of the key issues we're also finding is capacity of stakeholders and farming, empowering the communities to be able to understand the effects of climate change, and as well as what capacities they have to respond or to cope with these issues. And I should acknowledge, because Dr. Siosiwa Halabatao is with us today, and Dr. Boasa Naulupula for their role in leading the development and finalization of this framework. Next. Matilda, next please. Now, to respond to these key issues that we are finding in the countries, back, Matilda, back to the slides, previous slide, please. Yeah. Now, to respond to these key issues we are finding, we have, LRD has just gone through years of reprogramming and refocusing our key focal services. And now we are organized into 4 pillars to respond to some of these key challenges. Pillar 1, or program number 1, is on genetic resources. The key services and functions of this program is really on conservation, development, and promotion of resilient crop varieties. To date, the sender, or this pillar, hosts the biggest taro collection in the world, and is serving as an important role in providing diverse varieties of taro, not only to the Pacific, but globally as well, to Africa and to other regions. Program number 2 is really focused on sustainable forest and landscape. Most of the services we provide around this is really looking at disaster risk reduction through forest conservation, forest rehabilitation, and working with the communities to develop their own community land use plans. And of course, looking at the resilient agroforestry systems for both atoll communities and as well as high islands. Pillar 3 is on sustainable agriculture, which I look after. Services we focus on is really looking at sustainable crop production systems, focusing on soil, water, and seed systems, pest and disease management, animal health and production, and capacity building for extension services in the region. Markets for livelihood is focus services on biosecurity, value chains, post-harvest, and as well as looking at market access pathways. Next. So again, some of the key CSA related activities within these programs. On the genetic resources, we conserve over 2,000 accessions of 17 crops and trees. Now, this is an important function in relation to climate smart agriculture approaches. Case in point is Samoa, when the taro leaf blight wipe out the taro industry in Samoa. They had to resort to this resource center to again support rehabilitation of taro industry in Samoa. Of the 2,000 accessions, over about 100 accessions have some traits resilient to certain climatic conditions like drought, salt water, and water logging. The second important function of this program is really about introducing new crop varieties from other regions, and then virus indexing them and distributing them into the countries for evaluation and introduction into the farming systems, into the local farming systems. Next. Specific areas related to sustainable forests and landscapes revolves services are include forest conservation, forest rehabilitation, and looking at the nexus between forests and agricultural landscapes. Yeah. Next. 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 Yeah. Now, within the crop and farming systems, some of the key support services we're promoting is looking at soil health and soil management practices, efficient water use technologies, and looking at sustainable seed systems in the region. With respect to animal health and production, some of the key services we're providing currently is around capacity building on animal health issues, promoting sustainable animal husbandry practices, and as well as surveillance and management of pests and diseases for both animal and plants. Next. Now, in terms of supporting livelihoods within the region, again, a lot of our services revolves around capacity building of our biosecurity services in countries to look at pre-border, border, and post-border support systems, value chains, and as well as promoting sustainable organic production systems. Next. Now, in terms of going forward, I just want to discuss a little bit on this diagram. Looks a bit complicated, but it's quite straightforward. So now that SPC is providing the focal point for CACSA, I think there are a lot of opportunities to strengthen how we collaborate with CACSA to share lessons and experiences. Within SPC alone, we have a range of technical networks specific to certain tech or specific to technical areas on genetic resources, on animal health, on biosecurity, on forestry, on soils, organics, and as well as on extension and policy discussions. I think with these networks, they're well structured already, and there is ongoing dialogue, discussions on issues, on priorities, which we can build on to, to look at how we can strengthen the sharing of lessons with respect to climate smart agriculture approaches that can then provide stronger linkage to CACSA at the global level. So I'm going to leave it there, and happy to respond to any question or comments. Thanks.
Thank you, Gibson, for sharing your experiences from SPC, working with communities to identify key issues in a participatory way. You've mentioned that there is networks that are well established for us to identify major key issues related to CSA. So thank you for that. And we don't have any questions at the moment, so we will continue on with our presentations. Our next presenter, sorry, just for our participants, if you have any questions, please do comment in the Q&A. Without further ado, I will introduce Dr. Halavatau. Dr. Siosiua Halavatau has served in the Pacific region over many years in various capacities as a soil scientist, crop production and extensionist, and food security expert. Prior to working with SPC, Dr. Halavatau was Chief Soil Scientist and CEO of Extension Services for Tonga for over 15 years. He is currently working as an independent service provider on agricultural research, policy development initiatives in Marshall Islands and Tonga. Dr. Siua, could you share your experiences with climate smart agriculture in Tonga? Sorry, Dr. Siua, you are on mute. Maloilele to Dr. Siua in Tonga. Thank you.
Hello.
Yeah, hello. We can hear you.
Okay. All right. I'm just going to talk very fast. I have only about 4 slides, and I think right up front, just to follow up from what Gibson have said, I want to emphasize the 3 pillars of climate smart agriculture. One is we are trying to improve productivity and income, and in that we look at how we can overcome traditional issues like declining soil fertility or even climate change. And then while we do that, we try and improve the resilience. When we are talking about resilience, we are talking about the system resilience, as that photo shows in Kiribati. We try to improve the systems as well as the component of the system. How can we make the crops more resilient? How can we make the trees more resilient? How can we make the animals more resilient? And by doing all this, we should be able to make sure that we also reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. Those are the 3 pillars of climate smart agriculture, and all the work that I have been doing, and it's try to ensure that these are incorporated into the work that we are doing. Can I have the next slide, please? Next slide, please. In this slide, I'm trying to, because those who have never been to the Pacific, we have some of the most vulnerable countries in the Pacific, and the atolls are probably the most vulnerable. And you look at this, the work we have been doing in the atolls is Gibson alluded to in terms of soil health. We look at first doing research. Research is basically because these soils are multi-nutrient deficient or limited in terms of nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, copper, iron, manganese. You are talking about at least 5 nutrients that are there. So when you go there and try to advise them to use compost, I think you are go back. I think I wanted to go back. So when you talk to atolls about compost, you talk not of compost, but talk about targeted compost. Compost recipe you make must address these 5 nutrients that are limiting. Apart from the compost research, we also do evaluation and select the best crops that are adaptable to the harsh conditions of the atolls. When we do that, we incorporate this into the 2 food systems on atolls. The papai or the pulaka system, which is a wet system of planting. You plant into the water table and see how you improve that. And then also feed this into the rain-fed systems. And in the rain-fed systems, we introduce bucket irrigation. Also, we introduce the use of neem trees, neem trees as plant-derived herbicide. No, sorry, pesticide. Okay, next slide. Next slide, please. The next slide, please. Please, can you hear me? The next slide, please. Anyway, it's slow from there, but the next slide is about higher islands, and you know the problems with higher islands, like our friend Peter knows, is that on higher islands which are volcanic soils, the biggest problem is depletion of soil organic carbon, and the depletion of soil organic carbon is also associated with secondary problems. They're like water holding capacity, depletion of nutrients, and at times they are also linked to increasing pests and diseases. So on that, if you can put the next slide. In the next slide, what we have done is we have selected a cover crop, Mucuna pruriens, which I call a magic cover crop. It has the ability not only to fix nitrogen, it has the ability to mobilize fixed phosphorus in the soil, apart from increasing soil organic carbon. So when we were able to do all this, you not only improve the productivity of your soil, you also improve the resilience of the systems. So can you still hear me or not?
Yes, Dr. CEO, it's just taking a bit
Peter, you hear me?
across.
Yeah. Okay, this is the slide. Please continue on, because I think it's animated. Can you
view this now?
In this slide, this is put the whole out. Okay. So in the first slide there, in some work we were doing here in Tonga, it shows how much nitrogen that Mucuna can fix in 4 to 5 months. And then it is also showing the amount of phosphorus that it can mobilize. And one of the graphs that is showed there was some P fractionation work that I did to try and find out what is the fraction of phosphorus that mucuna mobilizes. And in this case, it's the iron and aluminum phosphate. And in soils of Vanuatu and Fiji, it will be the same thing. But also the other, can you bring up the rest of the graphs? The other two graphs is some work we did in Samoa and in Taveuni, in which we saw how mucuna influence the amount of organic carbon in the soil. So it increases the amount of organic carbon, as well as it improves the mobile carbon, the labile carbon in the soil. So when you see this slide, this is the benefit of mucuna. So then the next thing I think we have been having about drought in the last season, especially on adults. Adults have been having very, very severe droughts. So we are looking at how can we do water smart technologies. So some of the graphs there are showing what my climate smart villages in Kiribati are doing, such using the then a photo there I'm showing how we use the bucket irrigations into Kiribati, Tuvalu, Marshall Islands, and the top right is just to make us realize that the coconut coir, when you make rope, don't throw away coconut coir. Coconut coir is the best water crystal we have. It will absorb the water, and then when it goes into the soil, then it will slowly release the water to the plants. Yes. Keep your coconut coir, don't throw it away, don't burn it. And the bottom left is a technology we have introduced, which is wicking system. In the wicking system, the soil put a little bit of cover there, and we make a artificial water table. So the irrigation is from the bottom. So it is a wicking system. And also the last slide there is the last photo is use of mulches. This was in Tep North in Kiribati. But then my last slide is I want to end up by telling you the resilience and the productivity of food system. One, we have to improve biodiversity. And biodiversity, when new, I want to tell you this today. When you talk about biodiversity, it's not above ground. It's not the trees and the crops only. The soil biodiversity is important. Remember the flora and fauna in the soil. It's so important. Then improving soil health to improve soil organic carbon. And then there are other benefits that soil organic carbon will bring about. Reduce food waste. The food waste in the world is about 8%. If it doesn't be addressed, the amount of carbon that it generates is equivalent to whole countries. So let us address food losses. And then also introduce trees. Remember, trees is a permanent carbon sink. But if you don't know yet, let me tell you, it's the biggest carbon sink on this universe. It's bigger than the forest. It is estimated that if we increase soil organic carbon by 0.4% annually, that is enough to fix all the fossil fuel carbon dioxide emission. So think about that, and that also translate to the next point. We must contribute to national determined contribution. Agriculture has been blamed as an emitter of greenhouse gas emissions. We are also a solution. Let's do that. And then improve water management. And I think the last point is the biggest point is all the study on adaptation throughout the Pacific, whether it's SPC, USP, SPREP and all. The most forgotten people in the equation are the communities themselves. Remember, engage the community from day one, then adaptation will succeed. Thank you. Matilda, finish, eh?
Thank you, Dr. Siwa.
If you have any question, you just text me and I'll reply to you by.
This is not a good thing. To be human.
Thank you, Dr. Siwa. I'm now speaking from Matilda's. Thank you for sharing some of the research that you have done in Tonga and the region. Thank you for speaking on the importance of soil fertility and water retention, as well as the inclusion of communities in the CSA equation. We will now move on to our next speaker, Mrs. Marissa Cooks. She is the Director of Agriculture for the Republic of Nauru, a graduate of the RMIT University in Melbourne, as well as a USP graduate. Her mission statement is to facilitate and promote local food production in order for the community to attain food security through ensuring a dependable and sustainable agriculture development, present and future generations. She's been working as a public servant for the Nauru government in various departments for over 40 years and has been the Director of Agriculture with the Department of Commerce, Industry and Environment since 2017. Marissa, what has been your resilient building lessons and experiences in Nauru, given that 80% of the land has been degraded due to phosphate mining?
Thank you, Tino. I will try and answer the question as we go through the PowerPoint. So most of the experiences may be in the PowerPoint, and hopefully I would answer the question. Next, please. So what I am to share here is the policy support for the climate CSA. So as most of you may be aware, back please. Yes, as most of you would be aware about Nauru. Nauru is the smallest island nation in the world of the area of 21 kilometers, with the population of about 10,000 and maybe increasing this year and maybe beyond, it'll be increasing. So one of the most densely populated countries in the world with a population density of over 512 people per square kilometer. The island, as most of you will know, has been mined for phosphate for years, with majority about 80% of the land degraded, now uninhabitable. Next, please. So the overview of agriculture in Nauru, there is a range of factors affecting sustainable agriculture, including very limited arable land due to land degradation, problems resulting from mining and unsustainable land use practices, loss of biodiversity, and range of other agriculture production constraints. Agriculture production constraints include fragmentation, pollution, plot size, soil type, and fertility, poor soil water holding capacity, narrow genetic diversity, pests and diseases, high input costs, loss of traditional knowledge, and lack of farmer skills and capacities. There are specific constraints to livestock production include narrow genetic base, nutrition, waste management, and limited capacity to manage animal health issues. In addition to that, in addition to that, um, most of, so other challenges, there are other challenges that are, these constraints are further exacerbated by impacts of climate, such as threats to the Nauru agriculture sector include droughts and irregular rainfall patterns and sea level rise. Water resource is a major concern, and we need to have separate water for agriculture to be successful in agriculture. Our groundwater is limited in some areas and is polluted from septic systems. Soil infertile, as we all heard from Dr. Siwa, we have very limited elements to keep the soil quality. So we need compost to improve the soil quality. We have also invasive species, pests and diseases such as powdery mildew, leaf miner, mealybug aphid, root knot, soft rot, and white spiral fly. These factors are a major threat to Nauru's food and nutrition security. We are all reliant on imported food, which is also causing the NCD problems in Nauru. Next. The policy mandate on CSA in Nauru, we prioritize building resilience in the agriculture sector, explore and encourage sustainable and traditional agricultural practices, including composting, mulching, and the development of nurseries, improve seasonal forecasting and grower access to weather and climate information, and provide management options to growers for responding to extreme events, promotion and usage of drought-tolerant crop varieties and resilient livestock breeds, develop new and promotion of appropriate CSA technologies, and capacity building. Next. The policy initiative is to address these challenges in a holistic approach. Climate smart agriculture has been prioritized in Nauru's NDC framework to support both resilient communities and food and nutrition security of Nauru communities through funding support from the Pacific NDC based in SPC with funding support from GIZ, technical support provided by SPC to support development of Nauru's first CSA policy. The Nauru CSA plan, NASP, aims to identify agriculture production systems and practices that can be developed and are tailored to support adaptation and, where possible, mitigation, and ultimately enhance food and nutrition security of Nauru's population. So the development process for the plan, development of a comprehensive vulnerability assessment framework has been published by SPC. The framework is comprehensive using a range of tools. Comprehensive vulnerability assessment of challenges confronting Nauru, stakeholder consultations, mapping, priority setting, and strategic setting, drafting, and finalization. This is still in the draft form. Next. The goal of the NESP is to increase resilient food production systems for food and nutrition security in changing climate through the application of climate-smart agricultural practices. So to achieve this goal, the specific objectives are to increase production and productivity of food production systems using climate-smart agricultural technologies, increased marketing and consumption of local foods through education and awareness on food and nutrition security and climate change, improved governance and coordination on climate-smart agriculture and food and nutrition security, strengthen capacity of stakeholders through the provision of targeted trainings on climate-smart agriculture practices. The CSA is aligned to the National Sustainable Development Strategy, the Strategic Plan for the Sustainable Development of Agriculture in Nauru, that we have a draft strategic for agriculture, which is currently with FAO, which is in a draft form. National Strategic Plan, NCD Strategic Action Plan, and Country Programming Framework, CPF. So the Department of CIE has endeavored to facilitate. So these are the examples of the Nauru CSA activities that we are currently doing. We are doing backyard gardening, compost pit that is in the community, agroforestry planting, seedling preparation with TTM, assist in pig farming, planting of agroforestry by the coastal, collect organic waste, and visits schools to assist them in kitchen garden. We also have TTM to support us in the monthly seedling giveaways and community cooking outreach. Thank you. And that's the last of the slide. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marissa, for sharing lessons and experiences in building resilience in the Nauruan communities. Thank you also for sharing some of the climate smart agriculture activities that you are implementing at the moment. Let us continue on to the next presenter. Mr. Peter Napwat. He is the current Chief Executive Officer for the Vanuatu Agriculture College. He's a graduate of the University of Queensland with a Master's in Natural Resources and Economics. He's also a graduate of the University of the South Pacific, Alafua. His mission is to enable farmers and agriculture entrepreneurs to improve the viability and profitability of their operations through the provision of quality education and training. Peter, what lessons and experiences on adaptation strategies related to livestock production systems in Vanuatu can you share with us? And also, as we look forward to the Global Food Summit in 2021, what systems and policy instruments are in place in promoting resilient agricultural systems at the Vanuatu Agriculture College? Over to you, Peter.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Peter.
Good morning. Look, if you look at my presentation on the board there, it's been made to present what we're doing here at the Vanuatu Agricultural College, which is a training institution for push-outs from high schools and also farmers in particular. In other words, we are trying to teach the next generation of farmers to continue with the food production and all of the issues pertaining to agriculture and livestock and aquaculture, so to speak. There were 2 questions posed to me to respond to, and they are not contained in those presentation outlines. So I would prefer that person handling the presentations just keep rolling the presentation along as we talk about the 2 questions that I have sitting in front of me, which is what lessons and experience and adaptation strategies related to livestock production system in Vanuatu can you share with us? And also that one in particular that is asking for the Global Food Summit 2021 and what systems of policy instruments are in place in promoting resilience, resilient agriculture systems at VAC in particular. Let me start by saying, could you just roll the just keep running through the presentations, yeah? And so that I'd like the other participants to grasp what we are offering here at the college as a training institution, and to glean from those statements written in those slides what it is we are doing to reinforce this, the farmers' knowledge as looking forward to the future where there'll be more challenges. And I'd like to also remind us here that Vanuatu has been labeled as the most vulnerable country to all those risks that are natural and man-made maybe, but natural disasters always meet us. So in terms of no matter, even though we are a high island, we also have challenges in other things as well. So climate smart agriculture is very, very important to Vanuatu, and so pertaining to the question of livestock, I'm sorry that I have not produced any slides here to focus on livestock in particular. But again, as I said, if there's anything that anyone could pick up from the courses we're offering here, in order to answer some of the things that we're doing, focusing on climate smart agriculture, you are quite welcome to do that. But the lessons we have learned so far, that I have learned in particular in the livestock production system in Vanuatu, to share with the panelists this morning, is that recently in 2016 until 2020, Vanuatu Agricultural College was partnered to a huge program sponsored by ACR, which was a feed-based project to identify a species of forage and also how they could adapt to extremities in climates, and then we link those to smallholders, farmers to market outlets, and also capacity building in farmers. That what was integrated with a formal education system, and that's where Vanuatu Agricultural College was involved. And this is a project where involved different farming systems, at least 6 replicates, and different pastures. And so our students were engaged to help in that research program. And I think the outcome has also identified and which pastures are better and high in nutrition and would be recommended to smallholders especially. And so that experience also led us to begin to promote here at the college what sort of grasses what sort of legumes and the different conditions in Vanuatu the students are able to take out there and begin to do the extension work when they work in the village as farmers. And so I think from that experience, I can say that this college was commended for the work that the students did to help in that program, and not only that, they also had other social sector of that particular program also involved participation of women and vulnerable groups that required some of the staff of this college to go out and also investigate in remote areas, particularly in Salta, where this college is based, to see how the livestock production at community level affects the life of women in empowerment, in livelihood, and also income generation, if there were. And I think those results have been published. I'm sorry that I don't have those things because, like I said again, this question was posed to me later after I have submitted the presentation that I have for you on the board there. Another question which I am supposed to be answering is that as we look to the Global Food Summit 2021, what systems and policy instruments are in place in promoting resilient agriculture systems at VAC. Over here, we are covered by our own act at the Vanuatu Agriculture College. We have a council, but our purpose is to promote government policies, to train farmers based on current policies and what needs to be done out in the field when they go back to the respective homes and villages to continue to do the extension work and support farmers get into agriculture as a business, other than just planting food for household consumption. And so when we look at the policies, we have a people's policy, which is 2020 National Sustainable Policy, which focuses on the environment. It's got an environment pillar, social pillar, and economic pillar. And in those pillars, you have targeted activities focusing on climate change and how this country needs to poise itself to be able to cope with any issues in climate change or environmental degradation for that matter. I would like to just take you back to one of the slides that is actually showing at the moment, which is livestock level 4 in animal science, livestock and aquaculture, which also has power brain in it. Go back. Hello? Yeah, that's one there. Just to glean from that, what are the things that this college is go back again? Yeah, just leave it there. Yeah, just look at let's look at the livestock level 4 in animal science or livestock and aquaculture. We look at the principles and practices of sustainable agriculture. And that sustainability aspect of it gives us the idea of climate smart approach to sustainability in agriculture. And when we have those principles contained in the sustainable agriculture, also in the introduction to agro-ecosystems, implications of climate change on Vanuatu agriculture, and climate change adaptation and mitigation strategies, sustainable communities, all those things are contained in our agriculture in Vanuatu program. So that again is what I feel that I should flag across to SPC, that here at the Vanuatu Agriculture College we have those things targeting sustainable agriculture. Other things in the area of food production and the policies governing production of food, as we look forward to the Food Summit in 2021, we have a lot of policies under the agriculture policy, we have fruit and vegetable policy, we have cover policy, cover strategy, we have root crop strategy, and also the strategies that have been developed under the Agriculture Department overarching policy. And those are the policies that we bring into the college, and then we develop courses and training programs to targeting short workshops for farmers, as well as continuing courses for students that actually follow on from certificate 1 up to certificate 4. Then we have the diploma level, which has actually already been accredited, and we are now waiting for the approval to deliver, so that we can proceed with that. And that is in the area of agribusiness. Area of agribusiness, which takes on other from the production level to actually putting it to the market. But when you look at the slide, the diploma in agriculture, the plant science there, you can know the climate adaptation for resilient agricultural development. And then you have, those are the topics that are taught: agriculture and climate change, building agricultural resilience, and adaptive techniques for agriculture and vulnerable agricultural systems. Now, when we look at those programs, we have resources like Vanuatu Agricultural Research and Technical Center here in Sando, where the research into producing climate smart crops, we bring those into the college as exhibits for the students, and then we also send them there to do practicals in the field, so that they can have first-hand knowledge of what is happening at the production level. That is looking at climate smart crops. We have climate smart sweet potatoes, we have climate smart yams, we have climate smart manioc that have been researched, bred, and proven to be able to produce in adverse conditions and on different locations around Vanuatu. That has not yet stopped, and things do change as we go along, but we are hoping and hopeful that eventually we will be able to withstand some of the impacts of adverse climatic conditions that do affect us in this part of the world. And so I'm sure those efforts, we also have things like they're doing also some vegetables, they're doing collections on fruit crops like breadfruit, collection of bananas and taro, and testing those against different climatic conditions around Vanuatu, because up north it's not the same as down south with the more temperate kind of condition there. They got cooler months in summer. So those kind of things have been taken into the research station, so that as we go along, all the research findings, as soon as they're going, before they reach the farmers, they get introduced to the college, so that the students themselves become agents to be able to take those material back to the village and multiply those. Currently, the Vanuatu Agriculture College, the Agriculture Department has most of the students output from this college that are using them as field assistants or field officers around the island. So again, the knowledge they get out of here, they go and help the farmers to be able to introduce into their farming systems in the islands. And just to mention that, I think I'd like to also thank Dr. Siwa, who mentioned Mukuna. Mukuna has become part of the Vanuatu agriculture farming systems at the moment, because after he introduced that during one of the FAO sponsored programs back then many years ago, it's become part of the farming systems now. So we're seeing things that change as we go along, and although there are challenges we have with the changing climatic conditions due to the extremities, we can I can say for sure that at the college we are trying to make sure we integrate all those learning as we go along all the time, to make sure we are up to date with the information and what needs to be done in order to be able to combat some of the adversities that could impact during an extremity, whether it is a drought or too much rain, or in the event of a cyclone. Another one that I need to mention at this point is that the government has embarked on a food basket program around the country, and the food basket program is one that is intended to produce food to respond to any extremities or any calamities. At the moment, they have food baskets in Port Vila. They have food baskets in Santo, where there is a materials multiplication plot, and also food that is free to be given out to communities where there is shortage of food in the event of a cyclone or a drought. There is a food basket in Pentecost, where it was hit recently by TC Harold, and they have a food basket going there. They have a food basket going in Maiwo Island that was started in 2016 to respond to the Lombard Bend volcano on Mbai, where there are people they need to feed in that province. And those provincial food baskets have been scattered right across Vanuatu, and an ongoing program where in the event there is a calamity in a community or a certain island or across Vanuatu, the government is able to pick up food from that area and supply as a response to that event. Also in Santo recently, the Vanuatu government has signed a public partnership program with a local commercial plantation here to be able to farm 200 hectares of land for as a food basket. And this food basket activities is planting food in readiness for when a disaster strikes anywhere in the country. And I think, having said that, I think when we look forward to the Food Summit in 2021, I think, those are some of the things that are happening in the country. And in due time, I'm sure when all these food baskets are up and really fully functioning, I'm sure this country will be very food sufficient. Also, now that we have COVID-19, has presented a lot of opportunities for people to go to farming and so on. So in the next coming a few months and years, there'll just be a lot more food coming into the market, into the households, as people focus more on tilling the land now, while applying those climate smart crops. Those are fast maturing, and those that, for example, the cassava, which are really short ones that have very good high yields, and those are the things that are actually in Vanuatu's climate smart food agenda at the moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Peter, for sharing the experiences in Vanuatu, the empowerment of women and vulnerable groups in working in livestock, as well as your capacity building of young people who come into VAC, and for them to gain experience in climate smart agriculture initiatives that are being implemented by the Vanuatu agriculture. Thank you so much. And we are on to our Q&A session, but I think with time, and I have seen that some of the questions that have come through have been answered by our panelists. And if it's okay with the participants for us to continue, and if there are any other questions after this, please do forward it to us, and we will answer your questions and email it to you accordingly. Without further ado, I would like to welcome Dr. Lily Lim from CSIRO. She is the research group leader of CSIRO's Climate Smart Agriculture Group, focusing on integrating a wide range of disciplines to tackle the challenge of climate change on our food systems. She is most passionate about value chains, the system that brings our food to our plates. With an agribusiness background, Lily applies value chain approaches to adapting to climate change, drawing equitable and inclusive benefits from agriculture intensification in developing countries, and building the knowledge base for sustainable value chains of the future. She also has a strong interest in science communication and working with the private sector to achieve science impact.
Thank
Hi,
you very
Lily.
much, Tino. Thank you, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let me begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the lands and seas on which we meet today. Here in Brisbane and in Australia, it is the Yagara people, and I would like to pay my respects to the elders past, present, and emerging. Thank you to our wonderful speakers, Mr. Lufigo Makamba, sorry, Mr. Gibson Susumu, Dr. Siosua Halavatao, Mrs. Marissa Cook and Mr. Peter Napwat, and of course our lovely moderators Fatina Fatiaki and Matilda Simmons. Thank you very much. So my name is Lily, and I work at CSIRO, which is Australia's National Science Agency. I focus on agriculture and food, but of course that means that we work with people a lot. There's a very strong social side to the work that I do. I also co-lead GACSA's Investment Action Group, along with Mr. Tony Ciantonis of the World Business Council for Sustainable Development. You would have heard Lufingo Mokamba introduced our GACSA's work. And in relation to the Investment Action Group, we aim to facilitate effective public and private investment in areas that contribute to climate-smart agriculture. This is in recognition that achieving progress in climate action requires response from multiple actors, not just the government, but also business, NGOs, and communities, and everything in between. Now, as you know, and we've traveled through the Pacific today, it is a rich and diverse region spanning many island states and territories. And that diversity is matched equally by the impacts of climate change. As we speak, we heard that Tropical Cyclone Yaza, which is a Category 5 storm, continues to track towards Fiji. In addition to that, there are droughts, water scarcity, depleted soils, as you heard, sea level rise and changes in rainfall patterns that affect livelihoods, ecosystems, and overall food and nutritional security. But of course, climate change is not the only stressor to food and nutritional security. We saw COVID-19 has really shown us how interdependent we are as global citizens. Risks can come from anywhere. It also shows us how fragile our social and economic systems are when faced with these new threats. We're just not ready, and we tend to stumble when it comes to something new. Non-sustainable practices, such as those raised by Ms. Marissa Cook around phosphate mining in Nauru, can also limit livelihoods in the long term. So we're not just looking at immediate threats, but also long-term threats that are outside of what we might call climate, but also impact on our ability to act around climate change. So what needs to be done? There are three things that I picked up from the talks today, and I'd encourage everyone to continue thinking through this and adding on to them or building on what we have. Number one, action to address the impacts of climate change needs to account for other risks around climate in order to be effective. As you heard from Gibson Susumu, the work that SPC does provides a perfect example of the diversity of action required, from ensuring ongoing genetic diversity and sustainability of key food crops to biosecurity surveillance and pest and disease prevention and management. As well as supporting market systems that improve the livelihoods and improve value chain performance. Now, this is a wide range of action, yet combined, they actually lead to climate smart agriculture if done the right way. Number two, solutions need to be context relevant, tailored for the communities they are designed for, and backed by evidence and science. So it's no point actually staying just doing research and just handing over. And at the same time, working with communities needs to have the evidence so that we can make sure we keep on improving. Some of these are biophysical in nature, such as the examples provided by Siosua Halavatao around soil health and water retention. Others are market-based and backed by social science, such as the work mentioned by Peter Napwat on women and livelihoods in Vanuatu. These are critical, diverse spaces that need to be mindful of what is happening on the ground in order for them to be effective. Number three, Partnerships are critical in order to facilitate collective action. From our end, I'd like to talk about the Resilience Initiative for Food and Agriculture, which was launched in November 2020 by the Australian Ambassador for the Environment, Mr. Jamie Isbister. The initiative was founded by CSIRO, the Australian National University, and the Australian Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. It focuses on the delivery of science-backed solutions for pressing agriculture and food security needs in the Asia Pacific, but backed by foresight and insight on what is happening on the ground and capacity building. On behalf of the initiative, we welcome partnerships from our colleagues in the Pacific to join us in progressing our resilience agenda. Overall, the combination of locally relevant solutions alongside capacity building is what will support resilience and enable our communities to progress towards sustainable development in light of climate change. Investments are needed to get these going, and partnerships across multiple sectors, from public to private, will boost our efforts. I encourage everyone in this call to continue this dialogue with PaCSAA and GACSA, and I wish you all safety and health and the very best for the upcoming year. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lily, for your time. And I know you have other commitments. So thank you so much for joining us. I wish you all the best, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Thank you, everyone, and apologies I have to rush, but if you have any questions, please feel free to send through to the organising team or directly to myself. I'm based here in Brisbane in Australia, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so just before we, I pass it on to Gibson to wrap up everything and to close off our consultation, I would like to ask Lufingo if he is able to play the video that we were unable to play at the beginning of the consultation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tino. And also, again, thank you, Lily, for your intervention and for the support.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think it is a more than memorable day for you in the Pacific. And I'm more than proud to be with you, although it would be via a recording, because given the time difference and my current chairing of a CFS meeting, we have to do it this way. But I'm proud to be with you, and my thoughts, but also my heart is with you and what you are doing at this moment, especially what we are seeing today, because is plunged by COVID-19 into the biggest crisis of recent history. And it has come on top of already existing global challenges, like more than 700 million people affected by hunger, 2 billion people without access to safe, affordable, and nutritious food, and 1.6 billion people living with obesity. Now that we are losing and wasting 1/3 of the food we produce every year. Other crises in the world, such as climate change, loss of our biodiversity, and deforestation. In short, the vulnerabilities of our global food system have been laid bare. The agenda has been set for us. It's the Agenda 2030 with its Sustainable Development Goals. So we know what it takes to tackle these crises. And we know that we are lagging far behind in the implementation of our commitments. And I know how the Pacific region is faced with the challenges of climate change. And coming from the Netherlands, also with a lot of water around our land, we see that with the rise of the sea level, it's affecting coastal communities. What we see is with extreme weather conditions, it's affecting our agriculture. So we know, and certainly you know, how much climate change is impacting your life every day. So the challenges we are facing are enormous, enormous and the situation is urgent. We have to act, and we have to act now. And when we speak about the United Nations and we speak about solidarity, it's the moment now to join forces, to unite as countries and to unite as Pacific region to fight climate change, to improve your production, but in a climate smart way. You need to join forces, and we have to act and to act now. Of course, at a global level, but moreover and more importantly, at the regional and certainly at the national level, where we have to take concrete action. And I really would like to compliment you that you are bringing together a group of stakeholders and starting a Pacific Climate Smart Agriculture Alliance. We have the Global Alliance, which has more than 200 members already. But it's more important even to get regional alliances to support action at the national level in the circumstances of the region, especially, of course, the Pacific region. And we know what we have to do. We have to sustainably increase agriculture production and also incomes of our farmers, our foresters, and our fishermen. We have to build resilience and adaptation to the impact of climate change. And we have to contribute in a positive way to climate change mitigation and reducing or remove greenhouse gas emissions wherever possible. And that's what you're going to do together in the Pacific region with your alliance. And I was now as co-chair, but I was one of the founding members of the alliance. And I've seen what the alliance can do, what it can do in sharing experiences, best practices, in sharing information, but looking to the future, also making sure that we are implementing a matchmaking instrument where we also try to involve the private sector, that we can attract more private sector investments and investments from international organizations wherever it happens. We have to join forces with the private sector and with them. We need their technologies, we need their capacity, and we need their investment. And that's why I'm so proud that you are now launching the Pacific Climate Smart Agriculture Alliance, because together you can make it happen. And as I said before, ladies and gentlemen, what we need to do now is to show solidarity. Solidarity throughout joint efforts and solidarity throughout joint actions within the context of COVID-19, within the context of food insecurity. And that's why this initiative of you, bringing stakeholders together, can make a difference in your region. It can make a difference for the livelihoods of your people. It can make a difference for your economic growth. It can make a difference for fighting climate change, for sustainable agriculture, and also it can make a difference for a blue economy. And I would like to conclude by using the words of a famous diver, Jacques-Yves Cousteau, who said, "It takes generosity to discover the whole through others. If you realize you're only a violin, you can open yourself up to the world by playing your role in the concert." I wish you success with the Pacific Alliance for Climate Smart Agriculture. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was a wonderful message from Dr. Hans Hoogeveen, encouraging us, our Pacific Climate Smart Agriculture Alliance, and as Lily mentioned, setting a way forward for this Pacific Alliance to really come together and build a Pacific resilience against climate change. Now, I would like to ask Mr. Gibson if he can close our session today. But before that, I would like to thank each and every one of you, the speakers, to Lufingo and Yana, thank you so much. And especially to our participants for being a part of this event. And I hope that you have learned something from this. If not, we hope you will come again in our next seminars and dialogues. And we wish you all the best with the festive season coming up. Take care and look after yourselves. There's cyclones coming here and there. Thank you so much and have a great day. Over to you, Gibson. Vinaka.
Yeah, thank you, Tino. Colleagues, I'd like to take this opportunity to really thank everyone for the participation. Special thanks to our presenters, especially from the countries. Really thank you for accepting the invitation and the willingness to join us today and share some of your experiences at the national level. I also thank the participants for all the questions or comments posted onto this platform today. It really shows your interest and active participation in the discussions today. I also thank our global host, Mr. Lufingo. Thank you very much for joining us today, and also for reaching out to the Pacific and trying to build the link of GACSA to the Pacific region. I think GACSA will play an important role given the issues that we have heard today. The Pacific is quite very vulnerable to the impacts of climate change, especially the farming systems that are now being affected by the range of challenges posed by climate change, and as well as other non-climatic factors. So I think going forward, we are very keen to continue this dialogue, and like I highlighted before, SPC again through our various program is really also looking at a range of efforts or initiatives to strengthen climate change resilience, especially of the farming systems in the countries. And it really shows our commitment to supporting the member countries. And I should mention that in the near future, not really far away, I'm thinking by January or February, we will install a role within the Land Resource Division to support research related to climate smart agriculture, and who can also play an important role in taking this initiative forward. So going forward, I would like to see perhaps feedback from all the participants today on how you see strategies or approaches that we could, or actions that we can all collaboratively address to move this initiative forward. Lufingo highlighted the global initiatives or efforts around networking, around sharing lessons, around online dialogue, around publications, and so forth. Would be good to see feedback from everyone, how you see this initiative going forward, what sort of partnership or collaborative actions you want us to facilitate from SPC, and also linking us to the global community or with Lufingo's program. I think there is huge opportunity to pull our efforts together, whether through joint action or through networking or through online dialogues. We're open to suggestions from everyone so that we can properly package this effort going forward. We might be also looking at regular dialogue, online dialogue like this, organized either monthly or quarterly. Yeah, again, we're open to suggestions from everyone. So, but after today, I think for Tino and Matilda will be circulating all the PowerPoints and as well as the key feedback questions from everyone, and including, I noted one request to also share the recording. We'll see what sort of platform or file sharing mechanism we can use to distribute all the information to everyone. So with all those few words, again, I thank you very much, and I look forward to working with you all in moving this initiative forward. Binaka.
Thank you very much, Gibson.
Lufingo, you want to say anything before we conclude?
Sure thing. Gibson, I really appreciate it. Thank you. We started this journey some time back, and it's good to see that we are now moving. The bus is moving, and we are all in it together. I'm excited that the journey has begun. There's a lot ahead of us, and I am very confident that there's rich lessons that will come out from the region for us to share and sell to the other regions and vice versa. So let's keep it going, and looking forward to the next series of dialogue. I appreciate it. To you, Matilda and Tino, thank you very much for the hard work that you've put into this process. I appreciate it, and thank you as well to the participants that took the time to join us. Thank you.
Thank you, Lufingo. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Tino, Matilda. You all have a good day. By the way, Lufingo, we're expecting a category 5 cyclone coming by tomorrow. So I think we should let everyone go to secure all the residences for the hurricane. Thank you again, and bye, everyone.
Thank you. Be safe.
Thank you, Gibson.
Binaka.
Yeah.
I'm a terrible host.
You did awesome, Laura.
Well, one of the type of stay safe.